Hi, I'm Tim and thanks for watching this video. In this video we're going to be taking a look at private pre-shared keys, or PPSK as they're more commonly known. Now, what are they? Well, it allows you to broadcast one wireless network instead of having multiple wireless networks, say for different departments in your office or different VLANs or different devices on your network, if you're on a home network that is. And instead of that, you can have one wireless network broadcast and have multiple passwords for that one wireless network, thus allowing you to control with those individual passwords different departments. So you can have, say, department 1 has its own password, department 2 has its own password, 3 and so on. Or if you're in a home network, then you can allocate these to multiple users or individual devices on your network. So for example, you can have your, say, smart TV, your satellite TV box and your streaming media box, all having different passwords but connecting to the same private pre-shared key wireless network. So you'd have one SSID with multiple passwords. Hope that description explains what private pre-shared keys are all about. So let's get to it. So here we are at the computer screen. To log in, all you need to do is enter your usual username and password, or if you're, for example, setting up the access point from scratch, then you would enter the factory default username and password. This will then log you in to the overview screen of your Grandstream Access Point, and you should be presented with this similar dashboard. Now, first what we need to do is create our SSID. So to do this, at the left hand side, we'll select SSID's menu option. Then you will see we've already got a wireless access point SSID set up in there called GWN7670WM. Now that's the factory default one. So what we're going to do is enter and set up a new SSID to create our PPSK shared passwords and allocate them to this SSID. So to do this, we'll click Add. Then in the SSID name box, we'll give our wireless network a new name. So we'll call this, for example, MrTimTech. Then you need to make sure that you tick the box to enable the SSID. Otherwise, it will not broadcast and your devices will not be able to connect. So just remember that for every SSID that you create on a Grandstream wireless access point. Then in the client IP assignment, we'll leave that as bridge because it's obtaining the IP addresses for our connected clients from my Grandstream router or router, whichever we like to refer to them as. Then in the SSID band, you'll see we've got 2.4 and 5 GHz selected by default. Now, just to make you aware and just to remember that if you have, for example, smart home devices, then some of them might have trouble connecting when you select both the 2.4 and 5 GHz options. So you may want to choose 2.4 GHz or just 5 GHz. Or you could just set up two SSIDs, one for 2.4 and one for 5, and then have PPSKs allocated to both of those two SSIDs. So that might be an alternative way to do it. Then in this case, we can select 2.4 and 5 GHz, which is the default, and then we'll scroll down. If you want to enable MLO, so multi-link operation, then you can tick that box. So moving down to this access security section here, what we're going to do is select the security mode. So what we'll do is change this from WPA2 to WPA2 and WPA3. So it allows both WPA2 and WPA3 devices to connect. So then, after we've entered the security mode for WPA2 and WPA3, we're going to move to the WPA key mode box and change this from SEA-PSK. So click the drop down and we're going to select PPSK without radius. So if you have a radius server, so a separate radius server, then you would choose PPSK with radius. But but in this case we're using PPSK without radius. Then you'll see that the password box, so the WPA password box, has now disappeared because we've chosen the WPA key mode as PPSK. So then scrolling down to the bottom, all we need to do is just make sure that our access point is selected. However, to do this, you need to go into Device Membership tab at the top here. So then with the available devices, select your access point and then click the arrow to put it into the Member Devices side box here at the right hand side. This will then apply the information to this access point. So then once you've selected that, you can then click Save. And then with the Apply box, you have 36 changes not applied, or however number of changes it reports. You need to click on the Apply box. So just wait for these changes to be applied in the service status option here. This should take just a few seconds, and there we go, apply successfully, which is that message that just disappeared off screen then. So now we've created our SSID, we now need to go in and set up the private pre-shared keys, so PPSK. So to do this, we'll go into the access control option here at the left hand side, and then you will see we've got these options: access list, time policy, bandwidth rules, and PPSK. So of course we need to click on PPSK. Then in the PPSK screen, we'll click Add, and then in the SSID box, so in this Add window here, we'll choose MrTimTech, and then in the account box, what we're going to do is give this a name so that we can refer to it and we know what it's for and which PPSK is for which VLAN, for example. So we'll call this VLAN 3, and then in the Wi-Fi key, we'll enter the PPSK, so the password which we will use to access this private pre-shared key account, and this will then put us into VLAN 3 using the MrTimTech SSID. So the Wi-Fi key will put this as my lab password, and then I'll put number 3 at the end of it so that we refer to it and we know that it's going to take us into VLAN 3. Then with the maximum number of access clients, now this number in here is by default 1, so that means that only one client or device can actually use this private pre-shared key at the same time. However, we want to increase that, so we'll call it, say, 10 devices. Then in the upload limit and download limit boxes, what you can actually do is limit the connection speed, or rather the upload and download limits over this Wi-Fi network using this private pre-shared key password. However, I don't need to upload limit or download limit applied, so what we'll do is skip those boxes, and then in VLAN box we'll put in VLAN 3. So once you enter this Wi-Fi key that we've entered here, you will then be put into VLAN 3 using this PPSK setup here. So all we need to do is click Save. Now, just before we click Save, you can actually put a description in there. So for example, any users entering this PPSK will go into VLAN 3. So that's the description which you can enter so that you know and you can recall later on what it's all for. So once you've done that, click Save. Then it's saying you have 8 changes not applied, so we'll click and apply those changes. And there we go, that's set up our first private pre-shared key, or PPSK as they're more commonly known. So now what we need to do is we'll add a second one. So we'll click Add. Again, choose the MrTimTech SSID. The account will be 4, or rather VLAN 4. Enter a Wi-Fi password to connect to this VLAN. Then in the maximum number of access clients, in this case we can actually increase it. So if I want, say, more devices to connect to VLAN 4, we can change that to 15 or however many you so wish. And we can also set again an upload and download limit, but we'll just leave those as blank. And then in the VLAN box, this time we'll enter VLAN 4. So once you've entered this password in this PPSK, you will then be put automatically into VLAN 4. So we'll give a description. So any users entering this PPSK password will go into VLAN 4 and click save, and then we'll apply successfully. So we'll just do one more. So we'll click add, again choose the same SSID, count will be VLAN 5, again enter the password. So just make sure that you are entering different passwords for each PPSK. So you must have a unique password for each PPSK, otherwise it won't know and it won't work properly and it won't put you in the correct VLAN. So you do need to have unique passwords for each PPSK. So in the maximum number of access clients, in this case we can say 50 in there. We can set an upload and download limit again. VLAN, this will be 5. And then in the description, any users entering this PPSK password will be put into VLAN 5. And then we'll click save, click apply, and there we go. We've now got our 3 PPSKs set up. So once you connect to the MrTimTech SSID, you enter the password allocated to this VLAN 3 PPSK, then you'll be put into VLAN 3. If you enter the password for this PPSK, then you'll be put into VLAN 4. And then if you enter this password for this PPSK, you'll then be automatically put into VLAN 5. So this is useful, for example, if you've got devices in your home that need to be put into the VLAN, then all you need to do is create one SSID, have PPSKs for each. Say for your cameras, you can have a single PPSK, you can have another PPSK for your guests, and then another PPSK for trusted devices in your home, for example. Or you can actually give and set up a PPSK for each device in your home so that you can restrict that individual device by restricting it so its own upload and download limit per device, or you can actually block it from accessing the VLAN temporarily should you so wish. So you could actually do it with one PPSK for each device in your home. So that's how easy it is to set up private pre-shared keys on a Grandstream Wireless Access Point. And if you're wondering if it's better to set up private pre-shared keys or a captive portal, then you may want to take a look at Tony's video over at Quick Tech Solutions, and I'll put a link to that video in the video description below. And also you should be seeing that video in a pop-up card on screen right now. But if not, like I say, you can click on the link in the video description. So thanks for watching this video. Take care, and I'll be back again soon. So look after yourselves.